We are still in lockdown here in the ACT. And as a result, I haven't been able to go. Well, actually, I think I can get stuff mailed from the comic shops, but they did not have in time the next collection of volumes that I'm up to, which was volume 9, 10, 11. So I think, like I was talking about last week, I subscribed to the Viz Media website where you pay like $2 or $3 a month, and you can just read pretty much any like shonen series, and I think a lot of other like manga that Viz translates. So I went and read all the volumes, all the chapters, sorry, equivalent to 9, 10, 11. And I actually found it a lot better. I do like that I own the physical books, and I will continue to buy them. I will still buy the volumes that I read online, because I can put them in a bookshelf one day and I can potentially like lend them to people and say, you should try this. And it's nice just having something nice and physical. But being able to read it online is probably better. Like, as I've been sitting here working from home, I've had like manga open. You don't have to get the light right. One thing I found reading this manga is like you have to sit in a very... I tend to do it at night. Maybe my light is just shit, like the ceiling light, but I find if I'm at the wrong angle, the shadow makes it harder to read, so I'm always having to like get in the perfect angle. Obviously, when it's on your bright computer screen, it's big and bright and bold, and you can see everything, and you don't have to do the thing where you got to kind of open it too wide to see the corners of the page. I like it a lot better, and I'll probably continue to read online and just buy the manga for the sake of buying it. Anyway, good stuff. I found this picture of someone cosplaying Arlong, which I just found really, really funny. I love it when people cosplay like obscure characters from stuff. If I saw him at a convention, I would definitely want a photo with him. Anyway, we start this as we left off. Luffy and the gang have strolled into Arlong Park, and he's challenged Arlong to a fight. Now, he uses his rubber power, smacks Arlong in the face, and everyone sort of gasps, because up until this point, fishermen in general have been seen as like these super strong, invincible people, and especially Arlong. He is the strongest and toughest and meanest of them all, but Luffy punches him and lets everyone know that it's feasible that the pirates are gonna win this. That it's feasible that they're gonna come out on top, and the whole thing is that the village is there to fight and free themselves, and probably die doing so. But they see now that there is tangible that Luffy's gonna win this, and they'll be free. So they're all like gasping, but glad that it's not just a lost cause. You have people kind of like sort themselves out into pairs. So Hachi, the octopus, is going to take on Zoro, because I don't know if I mentioned last chapter, Zoro goes to Arlong Park looking for Arlong and like chops up all the fishermen there. I can't remember the exact circumstances of how this worked, but Hachi finds Zoro there and doesn't realize he's a bad guy and doesn't realize he killed all his friends, and offers to take him for like a ride to find Arlong, because he thinks maybe he's from the Marines, and he's one of like the dodgy Marines that's friends with Arlong and is being paid off. So he takes him on like he's got like a pot that he puts on his back, and people sit in the pot and he drives them around. And he's angry that he was tricked, and also that Zoro killed his friends. But there's another guy, I don't remember what he's called. He's like the Marine, what are those things that killed Steve Irwin? Stingray, Manta Ray. He's like a Manta Ray looking bloke. And he does Fishman Karate. This is our first mention of Fishman Karate, which will be something that comes up a lot later, especially when Jinbei, now that he's on the crew, he uses Fishman Karate. You have, I think, a guy called Hack, who's a fishman, and he's with the revolutionaries, and he trained, I think it was him that trained Koala, who's a human, who has a history with the fishermen, a history with Arlong, actually. Obviously, she doesn't come up here because she's not a character introduced way, way later. But she is friends with Arlong, and she uses Fishman Karate. Like, the 100 brick fist punch is something Jinbei definitely uses. So this guy uses Fishman Karate. There's a guy, I think he's called Snake. I don't. Maybe I'm gonna look this up. I got it ready with a bunch of stuff to remind myself as it comes up to talk about characters and things. I think they're just called the Arlong Pirates. They are just called the Arlong Pirates. I always thought Arlong's insignia was one of the cooler insignias from like the entire series because it's not a skull. Like there's a couple of badass pirate crews that have like a cartoony skull, like Big Mom's. Jolly Roger is still like a kind of skull, cartoony. Arlong's has always been really cool. Chew. He's not called Sneck. I think that's the sound he makes when he one of the attacks he does with his like snout thing. He shoots water. You might say Sneck it, or else I've just remembered this all wrong. Chew is what he's called. Hachi. Karubi is the manta ray looking guy. All these guys, it doesn't matter. Oh, except Mamu. I forgot to mention last episode. When Luffy, Sanji, Johnny, and the other bloke are coming into port, they meet this giant cow thing, and it wants to eat them. And basically, like, Luffy and Sanji specifically, I think, kicks him and injures him and gets him to go away. There's a bit in Arlong Park where they summon him, and they refer to him as like a great beast from the Grand Line, which is funny because when they get to the Grand Line, in this set of chapters, they see a couple of sea kings that are like continent size. So this big cow thing is really not anything special, but yeah, he was in last volume. He's in it sometime now, but he doesn't do anything. He comes in, he gets scared because he sees Sanji and he goes off straight away, and Arlong threatens him, I think, and he turns back to try and fight, and he gets instantly defeated. So, oh no, I remember now. He causes Luffy. Luffy's going to fight Arlong, obviously. But right at the beginning, they summon this cow thing to come and get Luffy. And Luffy, in the anime, it's I don't know if this was invented for the anime, but Luffy notices the pinwheel that's in the mare's hat. In the manga, you just see him kind of looking at it. Like there's a frame of him looking, and a next frame is this thing. So you get the impression Luffy's checking it out. In the anime, I think it puts like a transparent scene over the top of the pinwheel spinning, because Luffy does this move where he stamps his feet into the concrete, grabs the cow, spins around, or no, he spins around first, like he winds himself up like a spring, grabs the cow, spins it, and like kind of throws it onto the floor, or throws him away, something. In the manga, he just does it. In the anime, like I said, there's like you see a scene transparent over the top of the spin wheel spinning. And I think there might even be a scene where Luffy, like when he's looking at the pinwheel, says to himself like, "Oh, that's a good idea, spinny. I might." So it's like Luffy got the idea of this attack, this one attack he does once and then never again from the pinwheel, and that was significant. In the manga, it doesn't really make that connection. So there you go. And the big plot device here is that Luffy stamped his feet into the concrete so he could do this move, but now he's stuck there. I remember in the anime this was kind of drawn out. This whole thing where Arlong rips the block of concrete out of the ground and throws it into the water because he knows, one, it's going to drown Luffy regardless. Also because they realize Luffy has a devil fruit, he's not going to be able to get out. They say devil fruit users not only can't swim and they lose their power, they lose their like will to live. So he's just going to give up straight away and drown. And he throws Luffy in there, basically so that you have time for the other characters to fight. Like it's just a way of getting Luffy out of the way, so he doesn't instantly beat everyone and move straight onto Arlong. It gives the other characters a chance to fight. So he's going to drown. So the Najiko, who is Nami's adoptive sister, and she's covered in tattoos. We find later there's a reason for that. And the mayor, they dive into the water, and they find that they can pull Luffy's head out, like his neck stretches because he's made of rubber. So they pull his neck out of the water, so his head's like above water, and it's like a pipe. His neck's like a pipe down to his body, which is still stuck in this rock. So yeah, Luffy's not going to die, but he's needs to throw up the water that's in his lungs before he can do anything. So Zoro fights Hachi, and I forgot this. I didn't notice it. Now that it happened, I remember. But when he was fighting Mihawk last set of volumes, he attempted to do an attack, and he was cut down by Mihawk. But two of his two unnamed swords. He's got the Watoichi emoji, which is the white sword that's always in his mouth, and that's the one that he got from his master slash childhood dead friend, and his 2 unnamed swords. The 2 unnamed swords actually get broken, and I kind of forgot about that. Well, it wasn't really important, but here he's at a slight disadvantage because he only has 1 sword, and he's not that good at 1 sword style. And Hachi has, he's an octopus, so he has 8 legs. 2 of them are legs and feet, and so he's got 6 tentacle arm things. So he's got 6 sword style, and he's a fishman, and fishmen are just stronger than everyone, and they repeat that over and over, that fishmen are superior. But Sanji's only using 1 sword, so he can't quite win. Johnny and whatever the guy, Yash something, I don't care. They throw him their swords, their big kind of meat cleaver looking doodads, and he has 3 swords again, and he defeats Hachi. I think he cuts Hachi once, and Hachi gets up again. Then his wounds just open up, and he gets defeated by himself. Like, Zoro cuts him, and then Hachi gets back up, and he's going to do something, but the wounds were actually too deep, and he instantly just bleeds to death afterwards. Sanji fights the stingray-looking bloke. He jumps into the water to try and save Luffy, and the stingray bloke follows him, and he's a stingray fishman. He can breathe underwater, and he can swim, and his punches, especially paired with fishman karate, don't lose power in the water. They're actually stronger, so Sanji tries to kick, but he's in water, so it's slow and doesn't do much. But the fishman karate beats Sanji easily. He's trying to drown Sanji. Sanji gets out of it by... he puts his mouth up to the guy's gills and like blows into it, which makes him let go so Sanji can get back up into the out of the water. And now that they're out of the water, they have a normal one-on-one fight, and turns out Sanji is just 8 times stronger than this bloke when they're not in water, so Sanji wins. Usopp actually does a couple of heroic things. Like, I'm surprised, I forgot that Usopp actually did as much heroic deeds as he does. I kind of don't remember him being particularly heroic or useful up until he takes on the Soga King persona in Eni's lobby. But he's had a couple of moments where he's actually, like last chapter when he sniped Arlong. Like, he saved someone by, like, shooting a bullet at Arlong. Yeah, I don't remember him being that brave, but I think he shoots Chu and, like, gets him to follow him out the village. Like, Usopp basically runs away. And we catch up with them outside the village, and Usopp has tricked Chu into thinking he was beaten because he had packets of sauce or something, ketchup, that he sprayed on him to make it look like he was bleeding, and pretended he took an attack and he was beaten. And like, Usopp's thinking to himself, like, you know, I've led this guy away and I've tricked him. Like, I'm not hurt, but he thinks I am, so he thinks I'm dead. Now he's just going to go back, and he thinks to himself, like, you know, oh well, I'm safe. Later on, I'll just have to go back and I'll explain to, you know, I'll tell Nami, oh, sorry, you know, what could I do? He's a fish man, I'm not that strong, you know, I tried my best, like, and he's seeing flashes of, like, the rest of the crew talking about putting their life on the line and their brave things, and he's thinking to himself, like, yeah, like, really, what can I really do? Like, I'm not that strong, like, but, like, those guys put their life on the line, those guys are ready to fight till the death, like, but, on the other hand, like, what, I'm not going to win, why should I try? But, you know, Luffy wouldn't say that. Luffy would say, you know, like, I'm going to fight to save my friends no matter what. And he actually convinces himself to, like, get up and provoke Chu again, even though he's basically off the hook now. But he provokes him and says, like, he comes clean and says, I'm not dead and I'm going to fight you to the death like a hero would. And he's a little bit more strategic. Like, in Zoro's case, it's not a real long fight, but the result is, like, as soon as Zoro got his 3 swords, he used a move and won. Sanji, once he's on dry land, one-on-one fight with this guy, he's just stronger, he just kicks it and wins. It's not particularly strategic, but Usopp's fight is a little bit more strategic than just one-hit kills. He shoots, like, different... At the moment, his weapons are stars, which are basically just things he fires in his slingshot. So he's got, like, metal ball bearings, I can't remember what he calls them, like solid steel stars or something. He's got, like, ones that kind of explode, like firecrackers. He shoots, like, rotten eggs at one point. And he kind of shoots and then, like, goes into the woods to hide, and, like, he's a sniper, so, like, he's not a brawler. So he's kind of a little bit strategic. He hides and he gets from a distance. And he wins, basically. He throws a bottle of booze at the guy and it breaks and he gets covered in booze. And then he throws an exploding star that sets him on fire. And then for good measure, I can't remember, I think Chu's like gets up and is going to attack, and Usopp has like a hammer, which is like literally just like a carpenter's hammer, and hits it over the head. And he's not quite knocked out, so he hits him again, and then you see Usopp just like beating the guy to death. He's already knocked out, but he's just like, Usopp hammer, Usopp hammer, Usopp hammer, Usopp hammer. I don't know if you ever see Chu again. He might straight up be dead at this point. That's something that happens in One Piece, and probably a lot of series, is often you don't know what happens to the villain afterwards. Like Captain Kuro and his crew, like he was knocked out and Luffy saved the day, but then what happened to Kuro? Like, is he dead? I don't know whether they ever state whether Kuro, because obviously people like Buggy, he comes back later, like you know what happens to him. People like Kuro, like, is he dead? Did they just leave him on the beach to like wear the elements until he froze to death, or did the guy eventually like get up and leave on his ship? Did the Navy come and pick him up? Like, you don't know. Same with Arlong. You don't know what happens to Arlong, except for way in the future. I think when they first meet Hachi again, back over in the Shabudi Archipelago saga, I think Hachi's pretending to be not Hachi because he sees the Straw Hats. And I think someone just says to him, like, hey, like, how's Arlong doing? And he, like, replies back, oh, yeah, he's fine, he's good. Oh, fuck, like, I gave myself away. But obviously that implies that Arlong is okay somewhere. I don't know. Like, he gets defeated in this chapter, and they celebrate his defeat, and they have a party, whatever. They never say what happens to Arlong. Like, or do they? Maybe they call the Marines in him. I don't know. It doesn't matter. So yeah, Usopp wins, and he comes back, and he's like... The villagers are at, like, the entrance. Luffy and the rest are, like, inside Arlong Park fighting. Usopp has, like, this space in a hole in the wall that he kind of yells stuff from after that. Like, he comes back and he tells everyone he won. But he's just, like, yelling, good go, guys, and, like, you know, just random stuff. Like, he just shouts from, like, the balcony bit, pretty much. I think, was it Sanji just kicks the rock and frees Luffy? Now Luffy comes back and he's ready to fight. So basically that was just a way of taking Luffy out so that Sanji and Zoro and Usopp had a chance to fight their particular bad guys and win. Now it's Luffy versus Arlong. Luffy, it's a kind of half serious, half comical fight. It's not a bad fight. Luffy punches and kicks him. Arlong has sharp teeth. They go on that the fishermen have these sharp teeth, and he's a shark, so Luffy tries and manages to break his teeth because Arlong's like, my teeth are invincible. And Luffy breaks them, and he's like, look what happened, I've broken your weapon. But Arlong, like, instantly regrows teeth, because apparently sharks can regrow teeth. Not that fast in real life, but, you know, it's whatever. Arlong also does this thing where, like, he grows his teeth, he pulls them out, like, comical, like, false teeth. Does another one, so he's got, like, jaw hands, like puppet things, and gets his other teeth back. So a kind of classic Luffy moment. Luffy says he gets an idea. Like, at one point Luffy just tries to bite Arlong with, like, his teeth, like his flat human teeth, which doesn't really work. Later on, like, he attacks Arlong solely for the purpose of, like, stealing one of the teeth sets he has, and then, like, puts the sharp teeth in his own mouth. And, like, I think Luffy thinks this is, like, a really good strategy, and everyone else is just like, you're an idiot, Luffy. And he tries to bite Arlong, but Arlong says, like, it's not just the teeth, it's, like, my jaw strength. My jaws are, like, massively muscular. Your human jaws don't do shit, even if you have got sharp teeth. Anyway, I think Arlong starts doing this other move where he, like, goes into the water and shoots himself out of the water like a dart. Luffy ends up catching him and beating him. They end up in Nami's room. It's, like, this room in Arlong Park that belongs to Nami. It's like her jail cell. And they put cartography and paper and pens and stuff for her to draw maps. Now, this is something... In her flashback, it says that she likes drawing maps. It doesn't say why this, like, 5-year-old girl likes drawing maps. She just does. And she's really good at it. No one taught her. She's just really good at it. So it's implied the fishermen go underwater and they check out the ocean floors and the topography of everything, and they tell Nami, and Nami translates it into... It would have sort of made more sense if that's how she was just good at drawing. Like, they said, as a 5-year-old, she was just good at drawing. And as the fishermen come and tell her about topography and, like, the seabed, and she gets used to how it looks, that's how she developed over time map-making skills. Because it obviously doesn't make sense how teaches a 5-year-old girl. Like, I've got a 7-year-old daughter. Her drawings are amazing, but they're not, like, maps as good as a cartographer self-taught. Just that's neither here or there, but it would have made more sense if, at this period, this is what taught her to draw maps. Like the fisherman giving her details about how the floor and how the islands are put together and how the land works, and that's how she got good at it. Anyway, there's a flashback where like Arlong is basically kind of treating it like this is Nami's room, and this is where you'll get to do all your fun drawings. When really it's where she's put to work doing this, and she gets beaten if she does it wrong. Luffy gets the idea that it's a symbol of her oppression and like all these bad memories, and the root of her mental block at being basically a slave kind of to Arlong and his pirates. So he starts breaking everything, and Nami sees this and he realizes what Luffy is doing for her, and she's tearful and thankful. And then Luffy does his final attack where he stretches his leg right up in the air. Arlong does like a spinny move thingy to try and eat him, and he brings his foot down on top of him, defeats him, and Arlong Park kind of collapses in on itself. And then, yay, they're all happy. And Luffy stands atop the rubble and says, Nami, you're one of us. You're coming with us. And Nami, this is sort of the point. There's some debate about the order in which the Straw Hats join. So obviously Luffy is the original. Zoro joins definitely. Nami kind of joins after that. But there's some debate whether this, around the buggy, is when she joins the Straw Hat crew before Usopp and Sanji, or if this is the moment she officially joins after. So whether she's third or fifth in the order of joining. I'm going to say she's probably third. Like, she joined before. Like, she was a character. She was a member. Anyway, she gets... Obviously, she's going to join them. Everyone's happy for her that she's going to go out. Finally, released from this curse. Their village is released from the terror that is Arlong. She stabbed her... Like, she had Arlong's pirate insignia tattoo onto her arm, which I thought looked cool. And I said I liked Arlong's insignia. But she got it tattooed on her sort of against her will. It's a sign of her joining the crew, so they made her have it. That's the reason Nachiko, her sister, is like gets all the tattoos, is so that she's got more tattoos. So the fact that Nami has one tattoo is not as big a deal. Is the thinking behind that. She like makes herself a living art piece with lots of different tattoos. So in comparison, Nami's isn't that bad. It's more to make Nami feel better than anything. But she gets it modified so that instead of maybe I'll look that up. Instead of a instead of Arlong's insignia, it's this shape, which is a pinwheel and a tangerine tree. Because I think, did I say last episode, her mother, Bellemare, like grew tangerines. They had a tangerine grove. And they also take a whole bunch of tangerine trees and put them on the Going Merry. And that's a thing about the Going Merry for the rest of the time Merry's in it, that it's got a tangerine grove on it. It doesn't really come up. You never really see them eating tangerines or mentioning that they've got an everlasting supply of tangerines. And I'm pretty sure they get moved to the Thousand Sunny eventually, but I don't quite remember. I'm sure they are. I don't think they would have thrown those away. I just think they're somewhere maybe you can't see them. Or I'm an idiot and they're really obviously... Okay, I'm an idiot. I think that's them. I think it's really obvious that they're just there. I don't think they're all together. I think they're more sparsely put through the different parts. Anyway. There's a bit where Nezumi... Nezumi is like the captain of the area. He's mouse-themed for some reason. And he's the one that's got to deal with Arlong, where he takes a bribe from Arlong and doesn't report them to the Marines. So that's why the Marines haven't saved the citizens from Arlong, because as far as the Navy is concerned, nothing's wrong, except for the fact, now this is weird, there's one scene where a different Navy ship turns up under command of a different person with the intention of like rescuing the villages, and the fishermen destroy and kill all the people on that ship. So if he's like keeping Arlong out of the notice of the Marines, why did this other group of Marines come to save them? Like, if they're there to save the citizens, then obviously they know something's wrong. They know that the citizens are in danger. So if some Marines know, then that implies that some don't care, and if they're being bought off, like this guy's like buying them off, then there are Marines that are getting money to look the other way and know full well that there are like other sets of Marines in the same area that are desperately trying to save these people. And like, if the Navy, in the greater respect, if they knew that they sent a Navy ship to rescue people and it got destroyed, never to be seen again, did no one else care? Like, even if this guy's covering it up, like, they lost a Navy ship and several Marines died. Did that just go unnoticed? Did he falsify the paperwork so that no one knew that they lost these soldiers and this ship? It would have. I guess it's to show how. What's the word for it? How not terrible, hopeless. How hopeless the situation is. That even when the Marines come to save them, they're easily destroyed. But it doesn't gel with the fact that the reason that the Marines don't get involved is because they're supposed to be being paid off. So it opens this door to, like, if he's getting paid off, but there are other Marines trying to rescue them. So they're fully aware of. Later on, they mentioned that, like, the reason no one ever went after Arlong is because the Navy was being paid off to never, like, mention it. But there are Navy people that know that there's shit going on, and they died for that. It doesn't make sense that was never. Anyway, rant over. Nezumi turns up at the end and is kind of pissed off that, like, Arlong, his cash cow, has been defeated. And he kind of doesn't realize that if these people are pirates, they don't care that he's a Marine. Because he kind of tries to throw his weight around, and then he just gets beat up instantly by, like, Zoro or Sanji, I don't remember. And he gets shitted off. And this is where Luffy gets his first bounty. This Nezumi guy goes back and he sends a message to Navy headquarters about this pirate who's trouble and he defeated. For some reason, he does know that Luffy defeated Alvida, whatever her name was, Buggy, Don Krieg, and now Arlong. Like, he knows that because they put his bounty at a price that's kind of the combination of all the pirates he defeated. So they're fully aware of all these pirates knocking about East Blue, and they're fully aware of what they're doing. They never do anything to stop it, but they know that Luffy defeated them all. So that's why he gets... Luffy's initial bounty is 30 million berry. Berry... I have heard some people say belly, but I'm pretty sure it's berry. Is the currency in One Piece, and it kind of equates to yen. So when you say 100 berry, you're talking like 100 yen, which yen is kind of a cent. So 100 yen is sort of 100 cents, like a dollar. So when you say 30 million, you're probably closer to saying $30,000 is around about the real life equivalency of berry. But yeah, so Nami has a heartfelt farewell to the people. There's a scene where the mayor is talking to Belmare's grave about how well Nami and Nachiko have grown up. Luffy stumbles his way because he's looking for, I don't know, I can't remember what it might have been originally in Japanese. In the translation anyway, he's looking for pistachio or something, some sort of snack he sees Sanji with, and he wanders out of the party and runs into the mayor talking to Belmare's grave about how well Nami is doing. And he makes Luffy promise, like, never to do anything to hurt her. And Luffy's about to say, like, what are you talking about? I'm never going to do anything to... And I think the mayor knows that Luffy's not. And Luffy's like, I'm not going to do anything to hurt her. Why would you think? And he cuts him off and just says, just, like, promise me. And I think Luffy kind of realizes that, you know, he's not accusing him of potentially being bad to Nami. It's like more of like a father's worry, you know. Just promise me you'll be good to my girl. Like, I know you won't, but just promise me that. So Luffy kind of, I think, realizes that and shuts up and promises. And they all leave, and they're all happy. And that's kind of like the initial opening act of One Piece. This is where we get introduced to a lot of the initial concepts. Obviously, we have our 5 initial members. They don't get another member now until further on in the Grand Line. So this is like the core 5 members that... Oh, whoops. The core... Oh, for fuck's sake. Sorry, it's my alarm. The core 5 members. And they sail off. So this next bit actually has a hell of a lot of relevant stuff that is relevant to the story as it goes on, or introduces mysteries and characters and plot points that still are not resolved or fully explained, all the way up into where we are now. They head to Town, which is known as the beginning and the end, because it is the town where the Pirate King, Gol D. Roger, was born, and where he was executed, and where he gave his famous speech about One Piece, and basically started the Great Pirate Era. There's a lot to unpack with Roger and this particular speech, but I probably won't go into it now. All we need to know is that, this is where Roger was born and where he died. Sorry, I'm just gonna... I actually have the manga open in a different screen, so I can actually go to it to check if I've missed something, even though it's taking ages to load. Actually, I'm way past where... Yeah, so they go to Town, and we get introduced to a whole bunch of stuff, like I said, that's really relevant and introduces mystery or story points that are big deals. Like, I forgot how much in this little bit has a lot of stuff that has a lot of impact on the series. So they all split up. Zoro needs to go and buy 2 more swords because, like I mentioned, Johnny and his mate decide that they're not going to follow any further. They're going to stay and be bounty hunters. And I think, like I mentioned a few episodes ago, I think they end up becoming fishermen because they're not actually that good at being bounty hunters. Right. So Zoro had his 2 swords broken, so he needs new swords. So he goes into... he's really lucky because he goes into a sword shop that just happens to have 2 really good swords. And the circumstances that he acquires them are very unique. So he's really lucky he stumbled into this particular sword shop on this day. And this is where we get our first meeting with Tashigi. Tashigi is a weird character because I think she's supposed to have maybe more relevance than she ended up having. I go on and on about the original plan for One Piece was that it was going to be much shorter. So I think up until this point, this is probably all Oda's original plan. I think it's when you start getting into the Grand Line that things start getting longer and things start getting stretched out and new adventures and new things start getting added. So I think still up to this point, it's the original plan. So Tashigi's deal is that she looks like, is it Karina? Zoro's childhood friend, the girl who he promised that one of them would be the greatest swordsman and who died. So she looks exactly like her, except grown up, obviously. She too is a swordsman. She's obsessed with swords and sword-related trivias and things. And at one point, she does make a comment about how, she wishes she was a man because she's biologically just not as strong as a man, which is what Kuina's kind of big hang-up was. And Zoro's just like, oh my god, like, you look exactly like my friend, and you talk and you say the same things as my friend. Which is something that maybe at one point was going to be a bigger deal when it was, because they kind of set up this rivalry where, like, Zoro's kind of freaked out that it looks just like his childhood friend, and he kind of is a bit odd around her. She finds out later that he's a pirate, and she I don't know if I mentioned that, she's with the Navy. She is a captain or a petty officer. I can't remember. She gets promoted, so she's a captain later on, but I can't remember. Oh, wait. I opened the goddamn page. Chief Petty Officer she was. I opened these pages in advance so that when I talked about these characters, I'd have somewhere to go to. But anyway, so she's in the Marines. So she finds out Zoro's a pirate, and she doesn't like people using swords for ill. She was kind of pissy. She doesn't realize it's Zoro straight away. She just has heard of Zoro the pirate hunter, and thinks he's a bounty hunter. So she's still not wrapped that a swordsman would be using swords for making money, dishonorable. Even though being a bounty hunter surely is like a honorable career in this world, like fighting pirates. But anyway, she doesn't like the fact that he's using swords to be a bounty hunter. She especially doesn't like it when she finds out that is Zoro, and Zoro's actually now a pirate, so she hates it even more. So they have that kind of rivalry. The only thing is, Tashigi doesn't really turn up or do anything ever. They run into each other like once or twice. I think at Alabasta, they run into each other again. And then in Punk Hazard, they run into each other again. But she doesn't do much. The relationship with Zoro doesn't really go anywhere. So I don't know if there was meant to be more to it. Like the fact that she looks like his childhood sweetheart slash friend slash rival. And that Oda just didn't think it was worth sort of bringing up again. Like, he had much more interesting characters to work with, so Tashigi is now just an afterthought. Obviously, there's a lot of theories in the One Piece community that Tashigi is actually Kuina and that she didn't die and something happened and she lost her memory or something and was raised as a marine, which I don't think is true because it doesn't really make sense. But like I said, I don't know if she was meant to be more, because at the end of this little arc, Smoker, who was also introduced here, says that they're going to go to the Grand Line and they're going to hunt down these pirates. Like, you know, Smoker, his thing is I think he's a captain at this point. He has been assigned to Logtown, and he's got a Logia Devil Fruit. Yeah, Logia Devil Fruit. He has, I think it's the Plume Fruit or the Smoke Fruit or something. He can turn into smoke, which means he's invulnerable, basically. At this point, if you try and punch or shoot or slash him, as soon as you like make contact, his body turns into smoke. Or any other Logia user who has an element, fire, light, dust, sand, water, no, not water, snow, ice. Basically, they're made of whatever that substance is. So if you try and shoot them, they're invulnerable. So he's been assigned to this city, which is like the last town before you get to the Grand Line, and he's successfully stopped like any of the pirates from the East Blue from getting to the Grand Line and making it further than Logtown because he arrests them. I don't know how he let Don Krieg get past, but that's neither here nor there. So Luffy, spoiler alert, does manage to get past him. So he says they're going to go to the Grand Line to follow. It's disobeying his orders, but he needs to go and find Luffy and catch Luffy. So I think he was meant to be maybe like one of Luffy's greater enemies at one stage. But like I said, him and Tashigi very rarely come up, except for a couple of times where they play into the story, but not greatly. And they're kind of just like side character afterthoughts. So I don't know whether they were meant to be more involved with the story and a bigger deal at some point. And they just got left in the wake when the story got more interesting stories and characters. Anyway, she's in the sword shop. This is before she realizes who Zoro is. And she notices that Zoro has the Waroichi emoji, which it kind of implies at this point that Zoro wasn't aware what the sword was called and how good a sword it was, because it's one of the... Was it the 21 great swords? I think 40, 21, 12, is that the breakdown? So it's a named sword. It's one of the, I think, 21 great swords. Fuck. Waroichi emoji. I opened it. 21 great swords. There you go. I knew I opened this stuff for a reason. It kind of implies that Zoro doesn't realize how good a sword it is or what it is and anything around it, which he really should. Like, he should know the sword that he got from his like childhood friend and what its name was, and I think he must know what it's called because I think he does. Does he at some stage say what its name is to Luffy? I can't remember. Anyway, it doesn't matter. So Zoro has like 10,000 berry to buy swords, and he gets pointed towards like the bargain bin. The shop owner doesn't care. Like, apparently 100,000 berry for a sword is not a lot. So the store owner just like doesn't really give a shit. He's just like, fuck this like tramp with the homeless guy with no money thinks he can buy swords with this paltry sum. He tries to buy the Waroichi emoji off him, like hopes that he just doesn't realize how good a sword it was. So even though it's worth like 10 million, he'll give him like 100,000, 200,000 for it. Anyway, eventually he just points him towards the bargain bin, and they notice another named sword, which is, I think it's one of the 41 Kitetsu. The Sendai Kitetsu. Grade sword. I think that's one of the... Is it 40? It's not going to just tell me... 50. Okay, so there's 50. So it's a named sword, and there's 50 of this quality knocking about, and this is Kitetsu... No. The Sendai Kitetsu, which is a cursed blade. There's the Nidai Kitetsu, which is like... I think it's how you name sons, possibly. It'll say here, so Shodai Kitetsu, Nidai Kitetsu, and the Sendai. So 1, 2, 3. But it's a curse blade. It can work against its owner and slice them up and bring misfortune or something. They also refer to all the Kitetsu being cursed and that they're all well known or whatever. But we do run into the Nidai Kitetsu much, much later on Wano. We find a swordsman who looks like a Tengu. I don't remember what his name is. But his ancestor was like a great swordsmith who forged the Kitetsus. And he has the Nidai Kitetsu. And Wano is supposed to be cut off from the rest of the world. So presumably the Nidai Kitetsu has been there for hundreds of years. So I don't know how anyone else knows about the Nidai Kitetsu. Apart from if there's a Shodai and a Sendai knocking about, then presumably there's a Nidai. But they talk about it like it's knocking about the world somewhere. When really it's in Wano where no one would ever have come across its existence. I just thought that was slightly funny. Zoro says he doesn't care that it's cursed. He tests his luck against the curse where he throws the sword up and puts his arm out. And if like the sword is swinging one way, it will cut off his arm. But if it's swinging more the other way, it'll just, the blunt edge will hit his arm and it'll be fine. So the blunt edge hits. So he works out his luck and his destiny is stronger than the curse. So he'll take the sword. And the shop owner is like moved by this. He says like he was wrong to call Zoro a homeless bum or an amateur. It's been a long time since he's seen the eyes of a true swordsman. So he'll give Zoro the Kitetsu, the Sendai Kitetsu for free. Also, he has another sword, which I should have looked up. It's like I think it's it's another named sword. I can't remember. Is it going to tell me? Search. This one. Okay. Yubashiri. It's another named sword. It doesn't say. Does it say skillful grade? I think that's the 50 named ones. So I think the Sendai Kitetsu and this one are of the 50 skillful grade. I think it's only the Wado Ichimoji is of the 21 like better grade swords. He just gives him this for free. It's like the most expensive, high-ranking sword he has in his shop. But because Zoro proves himself to be like a true swordsman, he'll just give him this for free. So now Zoro doesn't spend a cent, and he has now 3 named blades. The Wado Ichimoji, the Shodai Kitetsu, and the Yubashiri. Yay. So he meets Tashigi, and he gets some swords. Sanji moves about and is buying a big fish for dinner. Usopp is doing the same. Nami is shopping for clothes. Luffy goes to see the platform that Gold D. Roger was executed on. And while he's there, he meets... I keep saying Alvida. Alvida. Yeah. He meets Alvida again and doesn't recognize her because she's gone from a big fat person with freckles. She mentions her freckles. And now she's like a sexy woman without freckles. I think she mentions that. Like, oh yeah, I've changed a bit. Obviously my freckles are gone. And everyone's like, that's not what people are going to notice first. And Buggy is there. And they trap Luffy on the execution platform. And they're going to execute him. Like, Buggy is straight up going to like cut his head off. Like, there's no pulling punches here. Like, Buggy is gonna chop the dude's head off. Most of the other Straw Hats, like Usopp and Nami, run back to the ship to try and get the ship ready to leave. Zoro and Sanji try to make it to the platform in time to save Luffy. For a second there, it looks like Buggy is gonna succeed. Like, Buggy becomes very, very close to like chopping Luffy's fucking head off. And just at that second where it seems like it's gonna happen, Luffy basically is like, yep, well, sorry, I'm dead. And he smiles and laughs, basically when he's about to die, which Smoker sees this and says, like, have you ever seen a pirate, like, at the moment that they're about to die, like, smile and laugh? And everyone's like, no. When you're about to die, you're pleading to your god, you're being regretful, you're sad, you're sobbing, you're crying for your mummy. But he's like, no, this guy, like, smiled and laughed, which is a... We find out much later, like, Luffy's middle initial is D. And there are several people in this world knocking about with the D middle name, and they're referred to as the Clan of D. and they have some significance. But one of the things is that they tend to smile and laugh at the moment of their death. Is like a common trait, and it's something that Roger did as well. Because Roger, he's referred to as Gold Roger, but you find out later his name is Gol, Gol, and his middle initial is D, so it's Gol D Roger. And there's a significance to the D name that's to do with the true history. We don't know what it is yet, but yeah. So that's he is saved though because a massive storm comes in, and it's Nami does sort of say, "Wow, like the barometric pressure is dropping. It's getting colder. The wind shifted. Like that's weird. Like there's a big storm coming. I can tell, but it's weird because the weather was good before, and this is strange." And so the storm comes up, and a big lightning bolt strikes Buggy just at the moment he's about to cut Luffy's neck. And we find out this is the first appearance of a character called Dragon. I don't think he's named here. He's not named, or is he? I don't remember whether they say Dragon or not. But later on we find out that his name is Monkey D. Dragon, and he is Luffy's father. But at this stage he's just a mysterious individual. And we don't actually find out anything about him, like his name or his relationship to Luffy, until after Water 7. After Luffy saves Robin and beats the CP9 and meets Garp for the first time in years. Garp appears here in the cover stories. Anyway, Garp, Monkey D. Garp, is Vice Admiral of the Navies. He's one of the highest ranking officers. He's known as the hero of the Navies. He tells him about his father being Dragon, who we find out later is the head of the Revolutionary Army. So he's basically a revolutionary. He's referred to as the most wanted person in the world, but I don't know whether that's a translation error or he's either the most dangerous or the most wanted. And I don't know if that means he's got the highest bounty, because we don't know his bounty. We know a lot of other characters, like the Pirate King's bounty was like 5 billion something, but we don't know Dragon's, so we don't know if he's just more wanted or more dangerous because he's the revolutionaries, or whether he literally has a higher bounty price. So the revolutionaries are basically they fight against the world government because they're revolutionaries, obviously. We don't know anything about the revolutionaries yet. We just know that this guy turns up. Smoker tries to attack and tries to catch Luffy, and he seemingly uses wind powers to like blow him away. We don't know what... This is the one and only time we see Dragon fight or potentially use his ability. So he can't have lightning powers, like the lightning bolt that strikes Buggy, because another character, Enel, who comes up later, has the lightning fruit. So people don't know whether he has just a general weather ability, that he called the storm here like with his weather powers, whether he's got a wind-based fruit because, you know, he just blew the storm in and like very specifically uses wind to blow Smoker away, or what. We don't know what Dragon's powers are. But this is when we meet him. We meet him now, he's big, mysterious, and nothing's mentioned about him for hundreds of chapters. And then when they finally are mentioned, we don't get much more information than he's revolutionary, he's Luffy's father, he's mysterious, and then another few hundred chapters until he appears again. And we still don't know much about Monkey D. Dragon, and the revolutionaries in general, and what his powers, his strength, his bounty, what they're about, what they're doing. It's still a massive ongoing mystery in the One Piece world. Anyway, Luffy's happy to be free. He's just like, oh, wow, I didn't die. How about that? Everyone escapes, and they sail off. Buggy and Alvida basically say, all right, well, we're still... They formed an alliance to catch Luffy, because they both have a grudge against Luffy. So they're going to enter the Grand Line to chase him. Smoker and Tashigi are going to go into the Grand Line to chase him. Dragon makes a couple of... He sees Luffy, and he says something like, a pirate? Well, that's... What an interesting path, or that's a good path to take. And he says, like, why he doesn't want to interfere with someone else's voyage. So, knowing that he's Luffy's father, this must be potentially the first time he's seen Luffy. Like, as far as he knows about Luffy. It's not like he's a father that just doesn't know he has a kid. He knows about Luffy. But I don't think he's had any contact with him. So this is probably the first time he's seen Luffy. And Garp always wanted Luffy to be a Marine. So, like, raising him, the few times that they interacted, he always wants Luffy to be a Marine. So maybe Dragon just assumed that he might become a Marine because that's what his grandfather forced him into. But he's happy to see... A pirate is a good profession. Like, he's a revolutionary fighting against the world government. His grandfather's a marine hero who like keeps the peace and whatever. So a pirate, that's a good, that's not following in anyone's footsteps, but it's still living his life free as he wants. So Dragon seems happy with that, happy with this outcome. So now we get going to the entrance to the Grand Line. And this is I know I've mentioned that they mentioned the Grand Line previously. And perhaps they weren't quite sure what the Grand Line was. They referred to it as kind of a waterway. This gives an explanation of what the Grand Line is and how the world fits together. I'm going to see if I can find a picture of the world, because it'd be much easier to... Oops. Alright. So essentially, this is what the world looks like. It's a globe, obviously. And you have what's called the Red Line, which is a continent. It's the only continent in the One Piece world. It's like a rocky mountain range that runs all the way around one diameter of the planet. Around the other one is the Grand Line. So that blue area here is the Grand Line. And so the two lines going both ways around the globe divides it into 4 seas. So I don't know which one's east, west, north. Is that north? Which way's up on this map? Maybe that's north blue. That's east, I guess. South, west blue. Doesn't really matter. So the Grand Line is like a sea that goes... Now, these things here, these 2 light blue lines, are the calm belt, which they say basically is... It's called the calm belt because it's calm. Like, there's no waves, there's no storms. It's pretty much always calm waters. And it's where the Sea Kings sort of nest. So these giant, continent-sized sea monsters nest in these waters and live in these waters. We find that they live everywhere, but I guess this is their nesting site, so it's more dangerous to like disturb their nesting area. So one, if you sail onto it, the wind stops because there's no wind; it's calm. So you basically get kind of stuck there. Motorized stuff doesn't seem to be much of a... There is motorized stuff, as we find out later, but motorized ships don't really seem to be commonplace or existing in this world. So you have to row if you're going to get anywhere. Like the wind stops, you have to row. Any disturbing of the water, you disturb the Sea Kings nesting there, and they eat and destroy you like instantly. So basically, you can't cross the calm belt. Well, you can under special circumstances, but normal people can't cross the calm belt. So you can't enter the Grand Line here, say. You can't sail in the calm seas of maybe, what's that, North Blue, and cross the calm belt there. Because as soon as you try and start, you get stuck because the wind stops, and then the Sea Kings eat you instantly. So this is Reverse Mountain. So it's like a mountain here. You can't see that it's supposed to be a mountain, but it's got like a little inlet from all 4 seas. Now, for whatever reason, the tide travels up. That's Logtown there, by the way, so that must be East Blue, I think. So you enter the Grand Line by sailing in your particular sea up to this area. The current takes you up to the top, and then dumps you, this here dumps you down, and then you're in the Grand Line. So that's why all 4 seas go up this one mountain and get dumped into the start of the Grand Line. Which I think is cool. That's a good way of explaining the world, the geography. As Teching 101 would say, geography is everything. It's a neat idea, and it kind of does make sense. Like, the ways you can cross the calm belt, there's a metal called Sea Prism Stone, which originates in Wano. It's a metal that mimics the properties of the sea. So... you could if you make handcuffs out of it and strap it to a devil fruit user, it's got the same ability as the sea, so it makes you weak and lose your ability. So it's a good weapon to have against devil fruit users. But it also, if you coat the bottom, then like it mimics the sea, so you can sail across the calm belt, and the navy users, the navy coat the bottom of their ships with this Sea Prism Stone. And it doesn't disturb the water, and like Sea Kings don't see it, or they ignore it, or something like that. There's also, I think, the Kuja pirates, Boa Hancock's crew. They've got a ship that's like dragged by Sea Kings, and that's how they get across that. So there are a couple of legit ways. Like the Navy go in and out of the calm belt. It said they need to get around quicker and easier than everyone else, so they can do it. But most people, and especially pirates, can't do it. That's why you can't. That's the end of the Grand Line. That's like the mythical new world, the end of the Grand Line. That's why you can't like just sail your ship here and just like go across and get there. And also why that once you start on the Grand Line, like you can't easily get out. Like you have to either just stop at an island forever or follow it all the way to the other side. I don't know what you're supposed to do when you get to the other side. That's a good question, actually. Once you get here, like where do you go? Like Laugh Tale, the Lost Island, isn't literally just an island here, or else it'd be easy to be found. There's a mystery, like a way of some sort of like clues to the location. It's hidden in some way, so it's not like it's just there. But even so, if you wanted to reach the Grand Line, I don't think it's that hard to like make it. If you're like one of the Yonko crews or whatever, surely you've made it to the end of the Grand Line. But once you got there, I don't know what you're supposed to do because there's no actual way up the red line. You get stuck. I guess you just have to sail back. But more or less, yeah. Once you're on the Grand Line, you're stuck on the Grand Line. So that's fun. It's a good way of explaining it. They get to the bottom and they meet a giant whale called Laboon, who kind of just seems like a throwaway. I used to have this plushie somewhere. Somewhere around I have this plushie. Anyway, he's a giant continent whale, I think he's called. So he's a whale, but he's like ginormous. And he's ramming his head against the red line, and you see all these scratches and stuff. And he's just ginormous. And they come across him, and they get swallowed by him. And inside, they meet a man called Crocus. He's this guy. Inside the whale's belly, there's like an artificial island and like a little holiday. I think, there it is. He's got his like little house inside. So it turns out he's a doctor. He's quite a skilled doctor, and he's kind of treating the whale. The whale is bashing his head against this red line, this giant mountain. Nothing we can do to stop him. He's just doing it. So he lives inside to treat his wounds, and he injects tranquilizer into him every now and then to make him calm the fuck down. Crocus basically tells the crew that this is Laboon. He's a whale. Basically, 50 plus years ago, a crew of pirates came by, and this little baby whale, baby Laboon. Where is he? Where is baby Laboon? This little baby whale was following them around, like somewhere. I think it's in the West Blue. They say somewhere in the West Blue. This little baby whale who was separated from his pod heard the music being played by these pirates and started following them. And they sort of adopted him as a pet / mascot. I don't know if he thought the ship was like his mother or the pod or another whale, or if he literally just got used to these humans and liked these humans. But he was kind of treated like part of their crew. It was like their little mascot-y pet, whatever. And this crew decided that they were going to sail onto the Grand Line, and they tried to get Laboon to leave and stop following them, but he wouldn't. He followed them all the way up into the Reverse Mountain. And basically, they didn't think it was safe. Like, the Grand Line's a dangerous place, especially for little baby whales. So they asked Crocus, who lived there, if he would watch over for them, because they were definitely they promised that they were going to sail all around. Again, I don't know how you get anywhere once you get to the end of the Grand Line, but they would come over the mountain, and next time he saw them was when they came from the opposite side of the mountain, because they'd gone all the way around, and they'd be back for him. That was the promise they made to their little pet / friend. We'll sail all around the world, and next time you see us, we'll be conquering heroes from the other side. And of course, they never came back. So part of what Laboon is doing is, he's smart enough to understand human speech. He was told, like, look, your family / friends are just not coming back. They're dead, probably. And he got upset, and he's trying to get to the other side because that's where they promised they were going to come from. So he's banging his head against the brick wall because he's trying to get to the other side to see his friends again. So Crocus tells them that, Luffy and his crew about that, and he has it on good authority that at some point the pirate crew tried to give up and tried to cross the Calm Belt and probably died there. And even if they didn't die there, they died at some point because this was a long time ago. So Luffy does a thing where he kind of he fights the whale a little bit and then instantly says, all right, it's a draw. We had a little battle. It's a draw. We're rivals now. We're going to sail around the world, and we'll come back and see you from the other side. But you have to, he draws this stupid looking straw hat insignia on his face and says, "We're rivals. If you bang your head against the wall, you'll erase the mark, and that will be like disrespect to our rivalry. So you can't bash your head against the rocks anymore." And we will go around the world and we'll see you again. And because we're rivals, we'll battle again when it gets to that point. So he kind of establishes the same relationship Laboon had with his previous friends, in that he'll wait for them there, but he can't bang his head against the wall and kill himself in the meantime, because that would be dishonorable to remove this mark that Luffy gives him. So happy. Luffy made a friend. Luffy did something selfless to make this whale feel better. We find out much later what happened to that crew. And one of the, it's kind of obvious, he's right there. One of the future Straw Hat members, Brook, was part of that pirate crew. But we'll get to that in 500 chapters? I assume that Oda always envisioned, because it's kind of a strange tale to tell about this whale and why Luffy would be bothered, Obviously, characters like Gaiman from that little stupid arc, that the guy in the treasure box, that was like a stupid nothing story of a character that never comes up again. So it is possible that maybe Laboon was just a character that Oda thought was interesting for a chapter or two, and Luffy helped him out like he helped Gaimon out, and that there was no bigger significance. But I think it was probably planned that Luffy would run into Brook, or at least part of the crew, the missing crew again. From some of the initial sketches of the initial, before One Piece was a series, there was lots of sketches, demos and drafts of characters, and there was always like a skeleton member in some of the early see if I can find one. Yeah, this is like a famous picture of like early, probably not that early, because Zoro, Luffy, Nami, Sanji all kind of look like they eventually would. Chopper looks a bit weird, looks adult. I think that's supposed to be like Usopp. That's Jinbei, I think, like a fishman type thing. Don't know about these guys, but obviously there's a skeleton dude there. So I think Oda always intended to be like a skeleton crew member. So I think it was always intended at some point that a skeleton member of Laboon's lost crew would join. We also find later that Crocus, he mentions that he's a doctor. He's basically lived at this lighthouse at the entrance of the Grand Line to help people, except for a period where he sailed on a pirate ship. And we find out later that that was the Pirate King's. He was the Pirate King's doctor. And one of these reasons for joining the Pirate King was to sail around and see if he could work out what happened to Laboon's crew that never came back. Obviously, so that's a big thing. Laboon is basically Brook's dream / motivation to get back to him, like he promised like 50 years ago. Brooks is, I don't know if that's Brooks' like finished character design when we first see him. Yeah, he is human originally, like he was a human when he knew Laboon. He becomes a skeleton through. We'll get to that later. Yeah, and Crocus and his relationship to the overall story and Roger is something that comes up again much later. So that's more stuff that is expanded on throughout the story. We also meet Miss Friday. Oh, hold on. Mr. Nine? Yeah, Mr. Nine. And is it Miss Friday? That's not what I meant to... Or is it... Here's Miss Wednesday. It might be Miss Wednesday. I only literally read this. Yeah, Miss Wednesday. Okay. These two. They're secret agents, as you can tell by the names. Like all the agents in their little are Mr. Number and Miss Day of the Week. I don't remember Miss Wednesday's name that well because she becomes another character by a different name and is much better known as that character. They say that they're after whale meat to feed their village. I don't know how that plays into Baroque Works' greater plans. I don't know if that's something that was dropped or... I think they're kind of low-level members. Like, they're named. Like, I think Baroque Works, anyway, was their criminal organization. And they will be, like, the main enemy for all the way up to the end of the Alabasta arc. So they're named. Like, there's lots of... I think the millions and the billions are, like, the foot soldiers. I think the millions are, like, stronger, but there's, like, a million of them or a lot of them. And then the billions are even weaker, but they're more numerous. If you're, like, named, then you're a tougher agent. So they're tough enough to be named, at least. But they're trying to kill Laboon for the whale meat, they say. To bring it back to their village. I don't know whether that's something that Crocodile really, really wanted them to obtain was whale meat. Or whether that was something like from a previous idea that was dropped and never mentioned again, because pretty soon, like, Miss Wednesday is Vivi, the Princess of Alabasta, who joins the Straw Hat crew, and it never really brings up her past in fact, at this point, they're different characters. I know for a fact that Oda has said that he introduced Miss Wednesday just as a character, like a bad guy, a little minor villain, and then was sort of thinking up the Alabasta arc and realized that he needed, like, a princess. And it was either, make up a new princess character and have them, the Straw Hat crew meet them at the next island, or I just introduced that kind of pretty-looking female character. I'll just say that's her in disguise. Like, she went undercover in this criminal organization to infiltrate it, and that's what happens. Like, we find out that Miss Wednesday is actually Vivi, the Princess of Alabasta, who joined the organization to infiltrate it and find out things about its shadowy leader and their overall bad guy plan. So that's another thing that comes up now. It's important to the story, but it's important to the near story, not the story that happens literally hundreds of chapters later. I don't know what happens to Mr. Nine. I haven't got that far yet. Yeah, I don't know whether Mr. Nine died or if he exited the series in some sort of specific way. I don't remember what happens to him. We'll find out soon. Anyway, so they get beaten up. And this is where we find out about log poses. I mentioned log poses in another episode, but it's basically like a compass. We find out when you enter the Grand Line, I think they say 7. There are 7 immediate islands, like within shooting distance of the entrance. And these log poses, because the magnetics and the weather of the Grand Line are so weird, you're unable to navigate it by traditional means. You get a log pose, and it gets the magnetic resonance or locks onto the magnetic signal of an island, and then you can be guided there. And because the weather's so wacky, you can trust where the log pose is pointing. So basically, you got to choose an island, and then basically from then on, each island is kind of connected to another island. So there are essentially like multiple paths throughout the Grand Line. Whatever island you start with is basically dictating the path you will take from then on. So Mr. Nine and Miss Wednesday want them to take him back to their home village, which is called Whiskey Peak. So basically, that's the reason that the Straw Hats end up on the path that they take. Is even though they're bad guys trying to kill Laboon, I think the Straw Hats feel bad for them because they're not really bad guys. They're kind of shitty bad guys, but they want to take him to Whiskey Peak. So that dictates their first island and the path they will then take throughout the Grand Line. You see the wacky weather of the Grand Line. There's a whole half a chapter of how bad the Grand Line is and how dangerous it is. Because like it's a storm 1 minute, it's clear the next, it's snowing the next, and you take your eye off something for a minute, you're off course, and Nami's struggling to, it's like navigating the Grand Line is like nothing she's ever experienced. And they spend all night battling stuff and trying to keep themselves on course. This is really the only time that ever comes up. Like after this, like I said before, they just sail from island to island. They rarely encounter any problems. When they land at islands, they're just villages full of people living their life. This is really the only chapter where it goes out of its way to show how dangerous the weather and unpredictable everything in the Grand Line is. After this, they just sail from island to island without any trouble. But it's worth mentioning here. They get to Whiskey Peak, and the people of Whiskey Peak welcome them as heroes of some sort. They know that they're pirates. They celebrate the fact that they're pirates, and they want to throw a grand banquet for them. So they feed them booze and food. Zoro gets drunk very quickly, like he's having a drinking competition. He has a few drinks and he's out. He's passed out. Luffy stuffs himself with food. Nami drinks herself. Sanji gets like 20 chicks to sit around with. Usopp spends all night telling his stories. And then they all pass out. And we find out the people of Whiskey Peak are actually bad guys. They lure pirates in, get them drunk, and then kill them and rob them. And that's what they're about to do. But it turns out Zoro isn't drunk. Like, we find out later, like, booze is, like, Zoro's thing. Like, Luffy loves meat. Zoro loves booze. And he can drink, like, buckets and barrels of booze easily. So he was basically, like, tricking them. Yeah. He pretends to get drunk off a few drinks. And when they try and, like, kill them, Zoro's, like, perfectly fine. And he's just like, yep, cool. I've seen your true colors. Now I'm going to, like, kill you all before you have a chance to kill us. And it's a good chance to test out my new swords. And that's more or less where this ends now. So yeah, the battle with Arlong, the end of Arlong Park, is alright. Like, it's not one of the greatest fights. Like, Zoro, Sanji, Usopp. Zoro, Sanji definitely just... It's not even a fight. They just basically beat them instantly. Not interesting at all. Except for Sanji has a little bit where he's underwater and he can't fight properly. But he gets out of that situation easily and beats his enemy easily. Usopp is a little bit more strategic. There's a little bit more with Usopp because he has to talk himself into not taking the easy way out and actually putting his life on the line to fight this battle. Like, at first he just wants to, like, pretend he's dead and leave it go, but he convinces himself that he's gonna, like, be a hero, which is good. It's nice. Luffy's fight with Arlong is kind of fun. The fact that, like, he tries these ridiculous strategies, like stealing a set of teeth and try to use it himself against a shark. And it's cathartic when, you know, he gets that final blow on Arlong and defeats him. That's good. So that's a nice ending to that. The Arlong Park arc up to this point is probably the best arc. And the battle was as good as any of the other battles against Don Krieg or Kuro. Then the Loguetown arc, nothing really happens in terms of, like, fighting, but it introduces a lot of characters that are going to be with us for a long time. A lot of concepts, a lot of story plots that are going to be with us for a long time. Story things that aren't resolved even now. We're past chapter 1000. It introduces us to character motivations for characters that we won't meet for literally another 10 years real time. It introduces us to characters that, you know, whose relevance to the overall story isn't going to be revealed for like 10 years. And it gives us the little first breadcrumbs of Alabasta, which is, like, probably when it happens, it's the biggest, it's the first grand scale story arc that we get. And it's the breadcrumbs to that. It's Baroque works. It's the Alabasta Kingdom and the princess. So yeah, a lot of stuff happens. A lot of stuff happens that's relevant to the rest of the story. Which, yeah, I don't remember it being so plot thick. Thick with mystique. No. Mystique? Oh, mystique. Intrigue. Thick with intrigue. So yeah, and this is where, like I said, the real scope of the One Piece world starts to form, where it's not like other stories where, yeah, every story is its own contained little thing. Characters you meet have relevance only to the immediate story. It starts to flesh out how big and complex the world is. Like, One Piece's world building is its biggest strength. And this is where you start to find the little crumbs of this, where little bits you see here and there are actually meaningful, relevant to the overall plot, come back hundreds and hundreds of chapters later to be, like, really important. So yeah, this is definitely where it starts becoming that large, huge world that is being built. Cool. Oh yeah, just very quickly, there is a cover story arc, which I don't think it concluded, but it started. It's about Kobe and Helmeppo, who have joined the Navy as, like, the bottom of the barrel swabs. You know, they spend all their time swabbing the deck or cleaning people's underwear, scrubbing, doing laundry, that sort of thing. The shit kickers, they entered in, like, a weird way, and they have to start at the very, very bottom. And Helmeppo's dad, Axe-Hand Morgan, who was, like, the villain of, like, the story arc with Zoro, who was, like, a weird cult of personality leader who'd kind of become obsessed with himself. Maybe because Django hypnotized him. That might have been the explanation. We find out, I don't know if I mentioned this, they hypnotized Axe-Hand Morgan to be the one that thinks he captured Captain Kuro. So maybe because he was hypnotized, he had this inflated, weird dictator, supreme leader sense about himself. But anyway, they're going to transfer him off wherever they are, and Vice Admiral Garp, which is the first time we meet Garp, comes to, like, pick him up. He's a big burly guy with, like, a weird dog mask, like a dog hat to begin with, and he turns up, and Axe-Hand sort of gets loose and chops Garp and kidnaps Helmeppo and tries to escape. They're gonna shoot with a big cannon Axe-Hand Morgan's little boat he's escaping in, but Kobe stands in front and says, "Look, Helmeppo's become my friend, even though Helmeppo's a bit of a jerk. He's still my friend now. I've got, and I'm not going to let you shoot my friend along with the bad guy. I think all the Marines are angry at him, but before they can do anything, Garp comes and destroys the cannon with one hand, explains that the reason he got chopped up is because literally he fell asleep. Like, he got off his ship, lined up, they presented the prisoner to him, and he fell asleep, like, on his feet. So when Axe-Hand Morgan chopped him, he managed to do it because Garp was just not conscious, and Garp barely noticed that it had happened. And he woke up afterwards, and he saw Kobe's spunk standing up for his friend, even in that situation. And I don't think the cover story actually finished with this chapter, so I'm pretty sure, I don't remember, I think Axe-Hand Morgan maybe gets away, I don't know. But it's going to resolve with Garp taking Kobe and Helmeppo under his wing. And we find out much later that Garp is the hero of the Navy who had all these exploits that I'll talk about maybe in a year's time. And is Luffy's grandfather. So that was, we got the introduction to Monkey D. Garp in this chapter as well. So anyway, I better go. I have a feeling some of the other streamers are doing something at 10. So I can't go past 10. But I am going to sign out there. Maybe I will be... No, the lockdown I think is scheduled for like another 2 weeks. I might be able to get the physical copies ready for next time. Otherwise, I'm going to read online more. I probably will just read online from now on. I'll just buy the books and put them in my bookshop straight away. The bookshelf. Anyway, goodbye everyone. I will see you next week.